Hello everyone, welcome to Jeopardy. My name is Lester Rosales and I will be your host today. Our contestants today are Abby, Amanda, Catalina, Emily, and Elizabeth. Our category today is in-task standards. First up is Abby. Your topics are standards 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8.
Standard 1, please.
Your question is, why is it so important for teachers to collaborate with families, communities, and other professionals to promote learner growth and development?
According to the NEA President Dennis Van Roekel in an NEA policy brief, he states that there is no better partnership to assure that all students have the support and resources they need to succeed in school and life. And about this, he was talking about the collaboration between the parents, family, and community in education. And when families and communities work together with schools and students, grades tend to improve, and so does attendance. All of this evidence holds true for pre-K all the way up to high school students, and it's regardless of a family's income or their background. Also, when collaborating with other professionals, there is always so much to learn from others who have more experience than you and have been where you have been. I think that it is so important for students to know that we are all in this together and working together to help make education the best that it can be for all.
Great answer, that's correct. Now on to our next contestant, Catalina. Pick your topic. Teachers have access to many different resources and services that help meet the different needs of all learners. What resources must teachers have to meet the needs of the individual learner? Perfect answer. Next up is Emily. Pick your standard.
Let's go with standard 3, please.
Your question is, in the classroom, teachers communicate verbally and non-verbally in ways to demonstrate respect for and responsiveness to the different cultural backgrounds. Why is it important for teachers to consider cultural backgrounds in planning for instruction?
Intertwining the students' cultures with their curriculum that they're learning will create a bridge for the students. All good teachers know that there has to be a bridge for the students within learning, so that way they're able to connect what they learned in the classroom to their outside lives. By maintaining an inclusive curriculum that remains respectful of all their differences, making sure that you're able to talk about Hispanic culture, African American culture, Asian culture, Caucasian culture, maintaining high expectations for all the students, allowing them to see that you understand and you appreciate and you're cheering them on throughout the school year, not just saying, oh yes, that's my student, but maintaining that they're going to be able to do it, that positive culture in your classroom. This way the students are excited for learning. They're excited to figure out how this puzzle of learning, that the new information that they're learning, fits in with their lives. Jacqueline Jordan Irene, professor from the University of Atlanta Emory, wrote, basically it's about effective teaching, but it takes into consideration the changing demographics of America's schools.
Now our next contestant is our host, Leslie. Your question is, in the classroom, teachers create opportunities for students to learn and practice the academic language in their content. Why is it so important for students to use academic language in their content?
It is important for students to use academic language in order to ensure that they might be more successful when it comes to understanding what is being asked of them. In terms of problem solving, test taking, and content checkpoints, the different language that is employed in these different contexts might be confusing to some students, such as English language learners. According to Jim Cummins, the difference between social English and academic learning English is a key component in comprehension and academic success. When students interact on the playground with fluencies, teachers might interpret the social English as an academically prepared English when the two are completely different. While the verbal language is the same, the contexts might be different. If students are familiarized with certain terms, such as science terms or math terms whenever it comes to their lessons, they might be more likely to be able to understand what the question is asking or retain the terms for future reference. It is important for us to distinguish these differences and know how to meet the students' needs and language abilities.
That was correct, Leslie. Let's go ahead and cheer for our host and move on to the next round.
Now for our next round. Let's get started. Amanda, you're up. Which standard would you like?
Standard 5, please.
Your question is, teachers develop and implement learner literacy in all subjects. How can teachers develop learner literacy into mathematics?
It is important for teachers to develop and implement supports for learner literacy development across all content areas. According to Elementary School Journal, Volume 103, Number 5 by Patricia Birch and James Spillane, relative to mathematics, leaders' agendas for improving literacy instruction focus on teacher input and literacy skills that apply to a variety of academic subjects. Teachers can incorporate many other subjects into math. Linda Carmine's and 10 Ways Literacy Can Promote a Deeper Understanding of Math says, as a middle school teacher, I love to incorporate writing and speaking into my math class. I found that requiring my students to provide verbal and written explanation not only helped their understanding, but also made class a lot more interesting and fun. As a teacher, you can use word problems that use the same vocabulary words you're using in English. In a math class that I'm taking right now, we have to make up math problems using the numbers the teacher has provided us. That would be a great way to practice math and writing at the same time. You can also integrate science vocabulary into word problems as well. You can use people they are learning about in history and math word problems. For example, you can say Abraham Lincoln, our 16th president, traveled from his home state of Kentucky to Washington, D.C., where he was president. He traveled the 600 miles at 10 miles per hour. How long did it take him to get to Washington, D.C.? Now the kids remember he was the 16th president and that he was from Kentucky, and you have done a math word problem. You can use any subject that you can think of, even football. For example, the football was on the 20th yard line, and they needed to get to the 30th yard line for a first down, but they got a 5-yard penalty. How many yards do they now need to get a first down? Math can be the gel that makes every subject mesh.
Great answer. Now on to our next question. Elizabeth, you're up. Which standard would you like?
Standard 6, please.
When teaching, the teacher watches the students and engages with them to provide feedback. Why is it important for teachers to provide descriptive feedback?
It is important for teachers to provide descriptive feedback because it helps guide the student in the right direction. It also shows that the teacher cares about their progress and will push them to work harder. Throughout the year, the teacher should be collecting data for each student to show the progress from the beginning of the year to the end. If the teacher notices a spot that the student is struggling, then they can assess what needs to be done to fix the problem. According to ASCD.org, it makes the student feel like their education is more personalized and constructed for them. If the feedback is consistent and descriptive, it will increase the students' eagerness to learn. Students also need the feedback in a timely manner so that they can see where they went wrong and try again. An example would be getting back grades on tests or assignments quickly in hopes that they can master it before moving on. It is not productive to just tell the student what their grade was. They need to know what went wrong, where or why it went wrong, and how they can do it correctly in order to change what they are doing. Feedback is only beneficial if the student can learn from it. Also, it is important for the teacher to recognize where the students start to mess up so that if there is a common problem, the teacher can address the class and reteach that part again. Positive and descriptive feedback is extremely important to the success of a student.
That is correct. Great job. Now only 2 standards left, and next up is Elizabeth again. Which standard would you like?
Standard 7, please.
Correct. Last but certainly not least is Amanda with Standard 8. Your question is, in the classroom, teachers use appropriate strategies and resources to adapt the learning to their students' needs. Why is this so important for teachers?
Planning goals is key to having a successful classroom. Edutopia.org breaks down goals by introducing SMART goals. SMART goals stand for specific, measurable, attainable, result-focused, and timely goals. Teachers and students both need an established set of goals in order to make sure all of the curriculum has been taught. Educators have certain TEKs for each grade level that explain what the students should know by the end of the school year. The teacher should break down the curriculum in an organized and timely manner so that the student is prepared for the standardized test and the next level of classes. Those types of goals would be considered long-term and are important because they keep the student focused and on the right track. Short-term goals like weekly assignments or bi-weekly tests allows the student to be held accountable for studying and turning in assignments on time, which helps them develop good work ethic and motivation to do well in school. However, as we all know, some goals take more or less time than others. When planning out goals for the school year, allow some wiggle room days every couple weeks. This is important for when your class is having a harder time grasping what is being taught. If you have wiggle room days, then you can continue the lesson until they understand. You also will have certain lessons that the class masters immediately, and instead of continuing to teach what they already know, you can move on to the next part. If you stick strictly to the goals you planned at the beginning of the school year, chances are some students will fall behind and others will become motivated because they are ready to move on. Having room in your schedule to adjust short-term goals is essential to completing the long-term goals.
Correct! Last but certainly not least is Amanda with Standard 8. Your question is, in the classroom, teachers use appropriate strategies and resources to adapt the learning to their students' needs. Why is this so important for teachers?
According to Design Learning for Diverse Learners by Natalie Ogenhaus in 2008, who deserves accommodations? Everyone deserves accommodations. Instructional accommodations are not just for students who are struggling. When accommodations are made, all students benefit. Accommodations do not fundamentally alter or lower expectations or standards of instructional level, content, or performance criteria. Instead, changes are made in the instructional delivery method, assessment method, or both to enable the student to have access to the same learning and equal opportunity to demonstrate that learning. Teacher concepts should cover a broad basis of knowledge, and all students should be able to access the core content. Then the teacher should show a variety of presentations of the content to meet the needs of the students. Some of the different strategies are grouping, manipulatives, and scaffolding. For the learners who are struggling, you can give different lengths of time to master the content. And for those students who have mastered the content more quickly, you can encourage them to get more in depth into the content. The more students you can reach and teach, the more your students will be successful.
Great answer. And that is all, folks. Thanks for tuning in to our In-Task Standards game of Jeopardy!